The armed robbery was supposed to be easy. Hit the grocery store during shift change when only the old security guard was on duty. What the criminals didn't expect was for Grandpa to move like a trained agent, disarm the gunman with textbook precision, and coordinate the response like someone who'd done this 100 times before. Welcome to True Story Zone. Before we dive into this incredible story of hidden expertise and quiet heroism, tell me in the comments where you're watching from today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button. Marcus Thompson arrives at Riverside Grocery every morning at 6:45 a.m., 15 minutes before his shift officially begins. At 68, he's been working as a security guard here for 5 years, ever since his wife passed and the silence in his apartment became too loud to bear. He wears the same oversized navy blue uniform every day, the fabric hanging loose on his aging frame. The security company patch on his shoulder reads, Guardian Security Services, in faded gold lettering. His badge, slightly tarnished, bears the number 247. To most people, he's invisible. Just another elderly man making ends meet with a job that requires more standing than thinking. Marcus drives a 2012 Honda Civic, parks in the employee section, and always enters through the back door near the loading dock. He greets the morning shift workers with quiet nods and takes his position by the main entrance, where he'll spend the next 8 hours watching people come and go. In his small apartment, Marcus keeps his past carefully stored away. In the bedroom closet, behind winter coats that rarely see use in Florida, sits a cardboard box containing 30 years of FBI credentials, commendation letters, and case files he's legally allowed to keep. Awards for meritorious service, letters from grateful families, newspaper clippings from cases that made headlines, all gathering dust while he counts shoppers and checks receipts. The transition from federal agent to grocery store security wasn't by choice. After his wife Linda's medical bills consumed their savings, after her funeral expenses emptied what remained, Marcus needed work. At 63, former FBI agents don't receive many job offers. The security position at Riverside Grocery was the first company willing to hire someone his age, and he took it without hesitation. But 5 years of checking bags and walking aisles hasn't dulled his instincts. Marcus still notices things others miss: the way someone's eyes move when they're lying, the body language of someone carrying concealed weapons, the subtle tells that separate innocent shoppers from potential threats. He just keeps those observations to himself now. Riverside Grocery sits on the edge of downtown, serving a mixed clientele that ranges from suburban families to urban professionals to transient populations drawn by the store's low prices and convenient location. The building itself is unremarkable. Fluorescent lighting, worn linoleum floors, and the perpetual hum of refrigeration units creating background noise that Marcus has learned to filter out. The morning shift brings predictable faces: retirees shopping early to avoid crowds, parents grabbing last-minute school lunch items, and service workers stopping by before their shifts. Marcus knows most of them by sight, though few know his name. To them, he's simply the security guard who helps find lost keys, provides directions, and occasionally asks to check receipts. Store manager Janet Morrison, 45, hired Marcus because he was reliable, punctual, and didn't cause problems. He's not going to chase down any bank robbers, she often told corporate during security reviews, but he shows up every day and keeps the peace. That's all we need. The afternoon shift brings different challenges: teenagers congregating after school, homeless individuals seeking shelter, and the occasional shoplifter testing the limits of an elderly guard's attention. Marcus handles each situation with quiet professionalism, de-escalating conflicts with words rather than force, understanding that his role is deterrence, not enforcement. What neither Janet nor the afternoon troublemakers realize is that Marcus processes every interaction through 30 years of federal law enforcement experience. When he suggests that lingering teenagers, might want to head home before it gets dark. He's reading micro-expressions and body language with the expertise of someone who once interviewed serial killers. When he politely asks someone to step outside to smoke, he's applying psychological pressure techniques learned in FBI training courses. The evening shift, from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m., is when Marcus feels most useful. This is when the store's demographics shift toward working families, when parents shop with tired children, when the stress of daily life makes people impatient and occasionally confrontational. It's also when serious crime is most likely to occur. Tuesday evening, November 15th, starts like any other late shift. Marcus has been on duty since 3 p.m., making his regular circuits through the store, nodding to familiar faces, keeping a professional but approachable presence near the entrance. The autumn weather has brought early darkness, and the store's bright interior creates a sharp contrast with the darkening parking lot outside. At 8:47 p.m., the store is moderately busy. Maybe 30 customers scattered across 15 aisles, 2 cashiers working the front registers, and Janet in the office finishing inventory reports. The pharmacy has closed, reducing foot traffic in the back section, and most shoppers are concentrated near the produce, dairy, and checkout areas. Marcus positions himself near the entrance, watching people come and go, while mentally cataloging details his years of training have made automatic. A young mother struggling with 2 children and a broken cartwheel. Not a threat. An elderly man comparing prices on soup cans. Legitimate shopper. A woman in business attire grabbing dinner ingredients while talking on her phone. Routine customer. But something else catches his attention. A dark sedan circling the parking lot for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. The driver hasn't gotten out, hasn't parked, just keeps making slow loops around the building. Marcus has noticed the vehicle, because noticing patterns is what federal agents do, even retired ones wearing security uniforms. At 8:52 p.m., the sedan finally parks in a spot that provides clear sightlines to both the main entrance and the side exit. 2 men get out, moving with the deliberate purpose that Marcus recognizes immediately. They're dressed casually, jeans, hoodies, baseball caps pulled low, but their movements are coordinated, practiced. They separate without speaking, one heading toward the main entrance, while the other walks toward the side of the building. Marcus feels the familiar sensation of adrenaline beginning to flow, the heightened awareness that served him through 3 decades of federal cases. These aren't shoppers. This is operational movement. They're setting up for something. He keys his radio, speaking quietly into the small device attached to his shirt collar. "Base, this is Marcus. We may have a situation developing. 2 male subjects acting suspiciously in the parking area." Janet's voice crackles back from the office. "Marcus, what kind of situation? Should I call the police?" "Stand by," Marcus responds, continuing to observe. "Still assessing." The first man enters the store through the main doors, nodding casually to Marcus as he passes. He's approximately 25 to 30 years old, average height, wearing a dark hoodie with the drawstrings pulled tight around his face. His hands are stuffed deep in his pockets, and he moves through the store with the false casualness of someone trying too hard to appear normal. Marcus watches him proceed directly to aisle 7, household goods and personal care items, an area with limited sight lines from the front registers. Not random browsing behavior. He's positioning himself away from witnesses and security cameras. The second man has disappeared around the side of the building, likely moving toward the employee entrance or loading dock area. In federal terminology, they're establishing overwatch and creating multiple exit routes. This is planned, coordinated, professional. At 8:55 p.m., Marcus makes a decision that will change everything. Marcus keys his radio again, his voice calm but urgent. "Janet, I need you to quietly move to the back office and call 911. Tell them we have a possible armed robbery in progress at Riverside Grocery. Do not use the PA system. Do not make any announcements. Just make the call." "Marcus, are you sure? I don't see—" "Trust me. Make the call now. 30 years of reading criminal behavior has taught Marcus to recognize the final moments before action. The man in aisle 7 keeps checking his watch and glancing toward the front entrance. His partner hasn't reappeared, which means he's likely in position at a secondary exit. They're waiting for something. Probably optimal timing when customer count is low and staff is distracted. At 8:58 p.m., the moment arrives. The main entrance chime sounds, and 3 more individuals enter the store together. Unlike the careful operational movement of the first 2, these 3 move with aggressive purpose. Marcus immediately identifies them as the primary assault team, while the first 2 were advanced scouts and perimeter security. The lead figure, a tall man wearing a surgical mask and dark clothing, reaches under his jacket and produces a handgun. Marcus identifies it immediately as a Glock 19, semi-automatic, likely loaded with 15+1 rounds. The man's grip and stance indicate familiarity with the weapon. This isn't an amateur with a stolen gun. This is someone with training. "Nobody move! This is a robbery!" the gunman shouts, his voice carrying clearly across the store. "Everyone get down! Now!" Customers throughout the store freeze, then begin reacting with predictable panic. Some drop to the floor immediately. Others stand paralyzed by fear. A few start moving toward exits before the gunman swings his weapon in their direction. "I said get down! Everyone on the ground!" Marcus, standing near the entrance behind the gunman, has a choice to make. His security training says to comply, call for help, and let law enforcement handle the situation. But his FBI experience tells him something different. This robbery is too well coordinated, too professional. These aren't desperate addicts looking for quick cash. They're here for something specific, and they're prepared for resistance. The gunman moves toward the customer service counter, where the store's safe and cash management system are located. His 2 companions begin herding customers toward the front of the store, creating a concentrated group that's easier to control. Meanwhile, the original scout from aisle 7 has moved to the electronics section, likely disabling security equipment. This level of coordination suggests extensive planning, inside knowledge of store operations, and possibly violence if they encounter resistance. In federal terms, this has moved beyond simple robbery into the category of organized criminal enterprise with potential for significant harm. At 9:01 p.m., Marcus Thompson, former FBI special agent, makes the decision that will reveal everything he's been hiding for 5 years. Marcus moves with fluid precision that hasn't diminished despite 5 years away from active duty. While the gunman focuses on the customer service counter and his accomplices manage the terrified customers, Marcus approaches from the blind spot he identified within seconds of the robbery beginning. His first priority is neutralizing the primary threat, the armed individual near the registers. Marcus has trained for this scenario hundreds of times at FBI facilities. Single-agent response to active armed situation. Minimal backup. Civilian safety paramount. He moves along the wall, using shopping displays and architectural features to mask his approach. The gunman's attention is divided between watching customers and directing his accomplices, creating the tactical opportunity Marcus needs. At a distance of 12 feet, Marcus speaks. "Federal agent, drop your weapon." The gunman spins toward Marcus's voice, raising his pistol, but Marcus is already moving. 30 years of federal training has taught him that the moment you announce your authority, you have approximately 1.5 seconds before the subject reacts with force. Marcus closes the distance in 3 steps, his body moving with muscle memory developed through countless training scenarios at Quantico. His left hand deflects the gunman's wrist upward and away from innocent bystanders, while his right hand strikes the weapon at the trigger guard, using leverage to break the subject's grip. The Glock flies across the store floor, sliding under shopping cart 15 feet away. The gunman, surprised by the speed and precision of the disarming technique, stumbles backward into the customer service counter. "Stay down!" Marcus commands, his voice carrying the authority of 3 decades in federal law enforcement. The gunman, looking at the elderly security guard who just disarmed him with professional efficiency, doesn't move. But Marcus's tactical assessment isn't complete. Two more subjects are still mobile and potentially armed. The accomplices who had been controlling customers are now realizing their leader has been neutralized, and they're making decisions about fight or flight. "Security! Everyone stay calm!" Marcus calls out to the terrified customers, his voice steady and authoritative. "Law enforcement is en route. Remain where you are for your own safety." The second robber, a younger man wearing a bandana mask, reaches for something under his jacket. Marcus, maintaining visual contact with the disarmed gunman, recognizes the movement pattern and reacts accordingly. "Don't do it!" Marcus says, his tone carrying the weight of someone who has faced armed resistance many times before. "You're looking at federal charges already. Don't make it worse." The psychological impact of Marcus's professional demeanor, calm, controlled, competent, causes the second robber to hesitate. This isn't the elderly mall cop they expected to encounter. This is someone who clearly knows what he's doing. The third accomplice makes the decision his companions are hesitating about. He runs for the exit. Marcus lets him go, understanding that maintaining control of the primary threats takes priority over pursuit that could create additional dangers for civilians. At 9:04 p.m., police sirens become audible in the distance. Marcus's earlier instruction to Janet has resulted in rapid law enforcement response, and the tactical situation is about to change significantly. "Police are almost here," Marcus announces to everyone in the store. "Remain calm and follow their instructions when they arrive." The disarmed gunman looks up at Marcus from his position on the floor. "Who the hell are you, old man?" Marcus adjusts his security badge and speaks quietly. "Someone who's been doing this a lot longer than you have." When Detective Sarah Chen and Officer Mike Rodriguez enter Riverside Grocery at 9:06 p.m., they expect to find chaos, panic, and an ongoing criminal situation. Instead, they discover an elderly security guard maintaining calm control over two subdued suspects while customers wait quietly for official law enforcement to take charge. Detective Chen, a 15-year veteran of the police force, immediately recognizes professional crime scene management when she sees it. The suspects are properly positioned and monitored, witnesses are contained and calm, evidence is preserved, and the security guard is providing clear, concise information about the incident. "Sir, I'm Detective Chen. Can you give me a brief rundown of what happened here?" Marcus nods professionally. "Armed robbery, 3 initial perpetrators, possibly 5 total, including lookouts. Primary subject is disarmed and secured. Secondary subject chose not to resist. Third subject fled on foot approximately 3 minutes ago. The weapon is secured under that shopping cart, and I've maintained chain of custody on all evidence." Detective Chen pauses, studying Marcus more carefully. This isn't typical security guard language or procedure. This is law enforcement terminology delivered with the precision of someone with extensive training and experience. "Sir, what's your background? You handled this situation with remarkable professionalism." Marcus straightens his security uniform and speaks quietly. 30 years, Federal Bureau of Investigation, retired 2019. The words hit Detective Chen like a revelation. She looks at the elderly man in the oversized security uniform with completely new understanding. "Your former bureau?" Special Agent Marcus Thompson, white-collar crime and organized criminal enterprises, badge number 3247. Officer Rodriguez, who has been securing the suspects, overhears the conversation and turns with obvious surprise. "Agent Thompson? Wait, you're that Agent Thompson, the guy who broke the Morrison crime family case in 2018? Marcus nods once. "Among others." Detective Chen realizes she's standing in front of a law enforcement legend working as a grocery store security guard. The Morrison case was federal law enforcement folklore, a complex RICO investigation that took down one of the most sophisticated criminal organizations in the Southeast. "Sir, with all due respect, what are you doing working security at a grocery store?" Marcus looks around at the store that has been his workplace for 5 years, at the customers who know him only as the quiet guard who helps find lost items and checks receipts. Same thing I've always done, Detective. Protecting people. But Detective Chen's question opens a deeper conversation that Marcus has been avoiding for 5 years. Why is one of the FBI's most accomplished agents working a minimum wage security job instead of consulting, teaching, or enjoying a comfortable retirement? The answer sits in Marcus's apartment, in a box of medical bills and funeral receipts. Linda Thompson, his wife of 42 years, battled cancer for 3 years before losing the fight in 2019. Marcus spent their retirement savings on experimental treatments, took early retirement to care for her full-time, and used their home equity to pay for medical expenses that insurance wouldn't cover. When Linda passed, Marcus was 63 years old, financially devastated, emotionally shattered, and too proud to ask for help from former colleagues who had moved on to lucrative private sector positions. The security job at Riverside Grocery provided income, health insurance, and most importantly, purpose during the darkest period of his life. Agent Thompson, Detective Chen continues, your response here was textbook federal procedure. Have you encountered situations like this before? Marcus allows himself a slight smile. Detective, in 30 years with the Bureau, I've seen armed robberies, organized crime, white-collar conspiracies, and everything in between. But tonight was the first time I've had to handle one wearing a security uniform instead of federal credentials. Officer Rodriguez finishes reading rights to the suspects and approaches Marcus. Sir, I have to ask, why didn't you identify yourself as law enforcement during the incident? Because I'm not law enforcement anymore, Marcus replies simply. I'm a security guard who happened to have some relevant experience. But Detective Chen understands there's more to the story. Former federal agents don't typically work retail security unless circumstances have forced difficult choices. She makes a mental note to follow up privately, recognizing that Marcus Thompson deserves better than his current situation. By 10:30 p.m., the crime scene has been processed, statements have been taken, and the store has been cleared of customers and investigators. Marcus remains to provide additional details to Detective Chen, who has requested a private conversation away from other personnel. Agent Thompson, she begins, then corrects herself. Mr. Thompson, I want to thank you personally for your actions tonight. Your intervention likely prevented serious injury or worse. Marcus nods, acknowledging the recognition, but not seeking additional praise. Just did what needed to be done. Sir, I hope you don't mind me saying this, but your skills are being wasted in this position. Have you considered returning to law enforcement? We have consulting opportunities, training positions, specialized units that could use your expertise. Marcus looks around the empty store, at the cleaning supplies he'll need to use to remove evidence tape residue, at the uniform that tomorrow will once again make him invisible to shoppers who see only an elderly security guard. Detective, I appreciate the sentiment, but this job serves its purpose. It keeps me busy, pays the bills, and apparently keeps me sharp enough to handle situations like tonight. Detective Chen studies his face, recognizing the dignity of someone who has made peace with circumstances beyond his control. Well, sir, if you ever change your mind, here's my card. The department could always use someone with your experience. Marcus takes the card and places it carefully in his wallet. Thank you, Detective. I'll keep that in mind. As the last police car pulls away and Marcus begins securing the store for the night, he reflects on the events of the evening. For 5 years, he's been Marcus the security guard, quiet, unnoticed, grateful for steady employment. Tonight, for just a few minutes, he was Special Agent Thompson again. The transition back feels both familiar and strange. The tactical thinking, the crisis management, the authority that comes with 30 years of federal experience. It all returned as naturally as breathing. But so did the weight of responsibility, the hyper-awareness of danger, the constant assessment of threats that he's spent 5 years learning to set aside. Janet Morrison, the store manager, returns to check on closing procedures and finds Marcus completing his incident reports with the detailed precision she's never seen before. "Marcus, I had no idea about your background. Why didn't you ever mention that you were FBI?"
Marcus looks up from his paperwork, considering how to answer.
"People see what they expect to see, Janet. You needed a security guard, and that's what I am. The rest is just experience that occasionally proves useful." "But you could be doing so much more than working security at a grocery store." Marcus caps his pen and stands slowly, feeling the weight of a long day and longer career. "Maybe, but there's dignity in honest work, regardless of what someone used to do. And besides," he gestures toward the front of the store where the incident occurred, "apparently the experience transfers pretty well." Janet watches Marcus complete his closing duties with new respect and understanding. The quiet, reliable security guard she's supervised for 5 years has revealed himself to be one of the most qualified law enforcement professionals she's ever encountered. 3 days later, Detective Chen visits Riverside Grocery during Marcus's afternoon shift. She finds him in his usual position near the entrance, checking receipts and providing directions to shoppers who ask. "Mr. Thompson, do you have a moment to talk?" Marcus nods and steps away from the main traffic flow. "Of course, Detective. Is there additional information you need about Tuesday's incident?" "Actually, sir, I'm here about something else. After our conversation the other night, I did some research into your career with the Bureau. Your record is impressive." Marcus shifts uncomfortably. He's spent 5 years avoiding conversations about his federal career, preferring the anonymity of his security position. "I also learned about your wife's illness and your financial situation," Chen continues gently. "Sir, what happened to you after your retirement isn't right. The system failed someone who gave 30 years of service to his country." Marcus looks away, unwilling to discuss the private struggles that led to his current circumstances. "Detective, I appreciate your concern, but please, let me finish. I've spoken with my captain, and we've reached out to the FBI field office. There are opportunities available. Consulting positions, training roles, advisory positions that would utilize your expertise and provide appropriate compensation." She hands Marcus a folder containing several job descriptions and contact information. "These aren't charity, sir. These are legitimate positions that need someone with your qualifications. The incident Tuesday night reminded everyone that experience like yours doesn't have an expiration date."
Marcus accepts the folder but doesn't open it immediately.
"Detective, I've been out of federal work for 5 years. The field has changed. Technology has advanced, sir. Criminal behavior hasn't changed. The fundamentals of investigation, threat assessment, and crisis management are exactly the same. What you demonstrated Tuesday night proves that your skills have remained sharp, despite your current employment." Marcus studies Detective Chen's face, recognizing sincerity and professional respect. For 5 years, he's told himself that his federal career is behind him, that age and circumstances have moved him into a different phase of life. But Tuesday night's incident reminded him that some abilities don't fade. They just wait for the right moment to emerge. "I'll review these opportunities," Marcus says quietly. "Thank you for taking the time to research this. One more thing, sir. The FBI field office would like to formally recognize your actions Tuesday night. Retired agents who prevent violent crime while protecting civilians deserve acknowledgement from the Bureau." Marcus shakes his head gently. "That's not necessary, Detective. I was just doing my job." "Which job, sir? Security guard or federal agent?" Marcus looks around the store where he's spent 5 quiet years rebuilding his life after personal tragedy. Then he looks at the folder containing opportunities to return to the work that defined his career. Maybe both, he says finally. 6 months later, Marcus Thompson splits his time between two positions. 3 days a week, he works as a security consultant for the FBI field office, training agents in crisis response and criminal behavior analysis. 2 days a week, he continues working at Riverside Grocery, not because he needs the income anymore, but because he's discovered that protecting people takes many forms. The store customers still see him as Marcus the security guard, though some have noticed he carries himself differently now. The confidence was always there, but now it's visible. The quiet authority he demonstrated during the robbery has become part of his everyday presence. Janet Morrison has promoted him to head of security, a position that allows him to implement professional safety protocols while maintaining the approachable demeanor that customers appreciate. Marcus has trained the staff in basic threat recognition and emergency procedures, turning a simple retail security operation into a model that other stores now study. Detective Chen stops by regularly, often bringing federal colleagues who want to meet the legendary Agent Thompson. Marcus tolerates the attention with good humor, though he still prefers the quiet satisfaction of helping customers find lost items to the recognition that comes with his federal consulting work. On his desk at home, next to Linda's photograph, Marcus keeps 2 items: his original FBI credentials and his Riverside Grocery security badge. Both represent service, protection, and the choice to stand between danger and innocent people. The armed robbery attempt that was supposed to be an easy target became a reminder that experience, training, and dedication don't retire just because someone changes uniforms. Marcus Thompson learned that his skills as a federal agent and his role as a security guard weren't separate identities. They were different expressions of the same commitment to protecting others. The teenagers who used to joke about Grandpa Security now nod respectfully when they see him. Word has spread through the community about what happened that Tuesday night, though Marcus never discusses the details. He doesn't need to. His presence speaks for itself. So, I ask you, have you ever underestimated someone based on their current job rather than their life experience? Have you encountered someone whose quiet competence suggested depths you never suspected? Share their story in the comments. If this story moved you, subscribe to True Story Zone. We're here to honor the hidden expertise, the overlooked experience, and the quiet heroes who prove that true service never really ends. It just finds new ways to protect people. Because sometimes the most qualified person in the room is wearing the uniform you least expect. Sometimes the greatest expertise comes from those who've learned that real strength doesn't need to announce itself. And sometimes the security guard checking your receipt has already saved more lives than you'll ever know. Until next time, remember, respect the people who choose service over recognition, who find purpose in protection, and who prove every day that heroism isn't about the badge you wear. It's about the choice you make when others need help. The most important security doesn't come from cameras or alarms. It comes from people who care enough to notice, skilled enough to act, and humble enough to go back to work the next day like nothing happened.